Okay, I just hit the button for this to go live on on YouTube. For the record, this is position 40 on my calendar, State of Georgia versus Antoine James. Mr. James is charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51320 with committing the offense of kidnapping. He's also charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51321 with committing the offense of false imprisonment. He's charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51322 with committing the offense of battery. He's charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51323. It doesn't list an offense. Can I get assistance on what 51323 charges?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm looking at the warrants right now. 5132.
So I don't have a charge listed for 323 and 324.
Five one three two three is for cruelty to children in the first degree.
Okay.
And 51324 is aggravated stalking.
Okay. Mr. James is present in court. He's represented by counsel. The state is also present. Mr. James, I just need to let you know that this hearing is neither private nor privileged, so please don't say anything you wouldn't want the whole world to know. Ms. Williams, you may call your witness and swear your witness in and present your case.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Rupert, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, if you could please state your name and where you're currently employed.
Michael Rupert, employed at Clayton County Police Department.
And how long have you been an employee of Clayton County Police Department?
Approximately off and on 2 years.
Were you working in that capacity on March 24th, 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And on that particular day, were you dispatched to any calls?
Yes, ma'am.
What call were you dispatched to?
I was dispatched to the one regarding this case. The address is the address I originally went to was 6880 Terra Boulevard. Well, that was the secondary location where the incident actually took place.
And is that address, the address you just listed, do you know what county that's located in?
Clayton County.
And when you say that you're involved in this case, are you talking about Antoine James?
Yes, ma'am.
And what was this call in reference to exactly?
We received a phone call from a father of the victim who stated that his daughter had been raped the date previously.
And did the victim or did the father of the victim identify who his daughter complained of?
Yes, ma'am.
And who was that?
It was Antoine James.
And where did the incident take place? As far, not the secondary location, where did the actual incident take place?
So here's the deal.
The incident that took place is the one listed at 6880 Terra Boulevard. The original location I went to was the home of the grandmother.
And when you arrived, did you make contact with anyone?
Yes, ma'am. I made contact with the father and the juvenile victim.
And what happened?
Uh, so essentially, the father and daughter had gotten into an argument at the father's house, and she later that day she ran away, and she had met up with Mr. James due to them of being talking via text messages, and they had hung out. They had been together the entire day, which is when the incident took place.
When you say that they were exchanging text or talking back and forth, are you aware of any court order that prohibited such conduct?
Yes, apparently the Mr. James had assaulted the victim before, and was prohibited from making any type of contact whatsoever with the victim.
All right. And you mentioned that they had been hanging out all day. Are you aware of what exactly took place?
So apparently she met up with him. It wasn't clear where exactly she was picked up at, but I know they went to several locations, to including the primary incident location. There was also an incident at a McDonald's just up the road on Terre Boulevard from the incident location.
So what happened at McDonald's?
Apparently the victim had tried to leave and get away from Mr. James, but he did not allow her to. He physically took her back to the hotel where they had been staying.
And are you aware of any legal authority the defendant had to not allow the victim to leave in this case?
None.
And you mentioned earlier that the police department was contacted by the victim's father stating his daughter was raped. Am I understanding your testimony correctly?
Yes.
And can you explain how that occurred?
How the rape occurred?
Yes, sir.
She's a minor and he is an adult. So any type of sexual contact between the two would be considered rape because they had sex.
Do you know how old the victim in this case is?
Give me just a moment. I believe it was 15. Let me double check. Yes, at the time where I went out there, I believe she was 15 because she was born September 5th, 2006. So she's probably 16 now.
Okay. And during this time where they were hanging out all day, sex happened, he took her to the McDonald's, all of this. Were there any other incidents that occurred as far as violence?
Yes, and that was later that night at the motel they were staying at.
And what happened that night?
So there's actual video cam footage that I was able to capture on my body worn camera. She had actually gotten out of the room trying to get away from Mr. James, and she ran to the check-in area where one of the workers on scene was actually there, able to help her get away. Mr. James as she had gone into the door, Mr. James had grabbed her and thrown her onto the ground and was trying to drag her out. They were fighting. And that's when two other Samaritans, I'll say, I was unable to locate them, actually stepped in and scared Mr. James off. And the hotel manager worker was able to let the victim in to the manager's office where Mr. James would not be able to have access because it requires a key code.
Did you observe any injuries on the victim?
If I did, they were minor at the time from when I was on scene.
And so we talked about the battery, him dragging, the kidnapping. He didn't have any authority. I want to talk about the cruelty to children in the first degree. And you kind of touched on this already with the rape, but who's the child? Who did the violence? What child? was involved in this case?
The victim.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
Yes, ma'am. The victim is a juvenile.
All right, no further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Ms. Pleasant?
Thank you. What is the name of the hotel that you've been speaking about?
It is, give me just a moment. I have it listed, I believe. It's the Budget Inn,
Okay.
on Terra Boulevard.
And does this hotel have any video surveillance?
Yes, ma'am. I was trying to get the video on a thumb drive, but I was unable to with their system, but I was able to capture the video on my body worn camera.
What video, what are the contents of the video that you captured on your body worn camera?
It shows the outside of the of the incident location. So it's got the entire parking lot in the front end. And you actually see the victim running away from Mr. James and Mr. James following her. And then the secondary camera was actually inside the check-in area. And you actually see a majority of what happened inside as well.
And what do you see inside happening?
You see you see the victim coming in, asking the manager for help. And then you see the two in a struggle of Mr. James and the victim fighting him, trying to get her back into the room, and her trying to fight him off.
And Mr. James is clearly visible in these videos. You're able to identify him in the videos.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, you spoke to Ms. Taylor personally. Is
Yes.
that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And she advised you that the sex between her and Mr. James was consensual.
It's not consensual. She's not 16.
Did she say she was raped, officer?
I'm sorry.
Did she say that she was raped? Did she had sex against her will?
She had sex with Mr. James.
Did she say she had sex against her will?
She said she had sex with Mr. James.
Your Honor, can you instruct the officer to please answer the question?
Yes, I'm sorry, Officer Rupert.
Yes, sir.
If you're given a question, please answer the question as directly as possible. She's asking clearly, did the juvenile say that she had sex against her will?
No, she said
We understand the age, all right? We're all lawyers, you're an officer. We understand what statutory rape is, okay? But can you answer the question as to whether the young lady said she had sex against her will?
no, she said she had sex with Mr. James.
I'm gonna ask this question one more time. Did she say she had sex against her will?
Not against her will.
Thank you.
Did you take any statements, any written or verbal statements from the grandmother?
I believe I did. Yes, ma'am.
And the father, did he provide any written statements?
Yes, ma'am.
And your interviews with them, are they also on your body worn camera?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you interview my client, Mr. James?
No, ma'am. He was not on scene.
Okay.
The manager said he had checked out.
And did the manager provide a written statement?
I don't believe if he provided a written statement, but it was captured on body worn camera.
Did you speak to anyone other than the manager, the father, Ms. Taylor, or her grandmother with regards to any of the events that you've testified about?
No, ma'am. Just them and the manager.
And did Ms. Taylor describe how she arrived at McDonald's or at the hotel?
I believe they walked.
And you testified previously that she was physically restrained. Did she give any detail about how that occurred?
That he physically grabbed her and walked her to the hotel.
Did she say grabbed her hand, grabbed her by the throat? What did she say exactly?
I don't recall where she was grabbed. I just know that she was not able to leave, and he forced her to go back to the hotel physically. I attempted to get surveillance from the McDonald's, but it's near impossible to get that footage. You have to contact several different outlets, and it's if they reach out back out to you.
But were you able to observe any footage from McDonald's?
No, it's unaccessible through the staff there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's all I have at this time.
Ms. Williams, do you have any redirect?
Very briefly, Your Honor. Mr. Rupert, at any point in time, did the defendant strike the victim?
I'm sorry, say it again.
At any point in time, did the defendant strike, slap, or hit the victim?
Objection, leading question.
I'm going to allow it.
In the video, there is a struggle. They're on the ground. She got thrown to the ground. So yes, I'm assuming there was, but what you can see in the video is just a hodgepodge of wrestling on the ground with each other.
And did the victim inform you whether or not she asked to leave?
Yes.
And did she?
Yes.
Did the defendant allow her to leave?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Pleasant, any recross?
No, Judge.
Okay, may Officer Rupert leave? Or
Yes,
be
Your Honor.
excused? Thank you, Officer Rupert. You can choose to stay or you can leave, but you're no longer compelled to be here.
Yes, sir.
Any other witnesses, Ms. Williams?
No, Your Honor.
Any witnesses, Ms. Pleasant?
No, Your Honor's defense rest.
Okay. Any argument?
Defense will submit on the testimony.
Okay. I'm going to find that the evidence is sufficient to bind this case over to the Superior Court of Clayton County for trial. Mr. James, you may be excused. And let's see, we still have Detective Moore here. It would be my desire to deal with Mr. Williams next. So we'll be done with Ms. Pleasant. So at the jail, could you bring up Jordanelle Williams?